Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel not looking to occupy Gaza but to free it from Hamas, calls his Gaza City plan the best way to end the war. European leaders rally in support of Kiev's inclusion ahead of the August 15th talks between Trump and Putin in Alaska. White House says Trump is open to Zelensky attending, but preparations are underway only for a bilateral meeting now. Oil prices extend declines after plunging more than 4% last week as markets focus on US-Russia peace talks. Nearly 10,000 residents relocated after deadly floods killed 13 in China's Gansu province. Mexico, Japan and Wisconsin also affected by floods. Huge fire sweeps across landmark Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, Scotland. Crews battle wildfires in Spain's Navarra region and Italy's Vesuvius National Park. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended a newly approved Gaza City plan, calling it the best way to end the war. Addressing international media on Sunday, he said Israel must defeat Hamas, citing their refusal to disarm. Netanyahu said that the military expansion in Gaza aims to bring a swift end to the Gaza war after seizing the two remaining Hamas strongholds in the enclave.
The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas, lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will have overriding security responsibility. A security zone will be established on Gaza's border with Israel to prevent future terrorist incursions. A civilian administration will be established in Gaza that will seek to live in peace with Israel. The war won, Hamas disarmed.
Amid domestic and global criticism over his plan for takeover of Gaza City, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference with international media on Sunday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu outlined his plan, saying his aim is not to govern Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister reiterated his resolve to go ahead with the plan.
Given Hamas's refusal to lay down its arms, Israel has no choice but to finish the job and complete the defeat of Hamas. Last Thursday, Israel's Security Cabinet, instructed the IDF to dismantle the two remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza City and the central camps. Contrary to false claims, this is the best way to end the war and the best way to end it speedily.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing domestic criticism over his plan. Ministers Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir criticized the repeated military approach, saying it lacks a clear path to decisive victory.
The Prime Minister and the Cabinet surrendered to weakness, allowed feelings to overcome brains and decided again to do more of the same thing, to launch a military operation which is not aimed at victory but only at pressuring Hamas to bring it to a partial hostages deal, while clearly saying that should Hamas agree to a deal, we will also agree to stop again, to retreat again, to allow it to recover and rearm. And then again, this is not how you win. This is not how hostages return. This is not how you win a war.
Notably, on Friday, Israel's Security Cabinet had approved a plan to take control of Gaza City, a move expanding military operations in the shattered Palestinian territory, drawing criticism at home and abroad. Bureau Report, DD India.
The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting on Sunday to address Israel's decision to expand its military operations and take control of Gaza City. The session, that was requested by several European members, focused on the worsening humanitarian crisis and the potential consequences for Gaza's 2 million residents, and remaining hostages. Israeli and Palestinian ambassador offered starkly different narratives of the situation and the solutions needed to end the conflict in Gaza. Addressing the other diplomats, Palestinian UN ambassador Riyad Mansour stated that words were not enough to stop the harm.
If its concern was actually security, it would have rallied this plan and should have been happy to see this plan adopted by almost the entire international community. Israel is seeking to cement its full military control over the Gaza Strip and is prolonging this war not to end Hamas rule or to disarm it, but to prevent independent Palestinian statehood.
Israeli Ambassador Jonathan Miller countered the characterization of Israel as the aggressor, noting that their objective was to liberate Gaza from a brutal terror regime.
I wish to reiterate the principles, the 5 clear principles that the Israeli Security Cabinet adopted for concluding the war. 1, the disarming of Hamas. 2, the return of all our hostages, both living and deceased. 3, the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. 4, Israeli security control in the Gaza Strip. 5, the establishment of a non-Israeli peaceful civil administration governed neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority.
The United States, a veto-wielding permanent member of the Security Council, accused those nations who supported Sunday's meeting of actively prolonging the war by spreading lies about Israel.
The most recent round of negotiations collapsed because Hamas drew encouragement from efforts to target Israel with libels and lies. The ill-conceived and performative two-state solution conference and unilateral announcements regarding recognition of a Palestinian state. The government of Israel did not make its decision to advance its military campaign in a vacuum, but after months of Hamas's intransigence. Hamas refuses to accept a ceasefire and continues to torture the hostages.
Next, Australia has announced plans to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Monday. Albanese added that he had received assurances from the Palestinian Authority that there would be no role for the terrorists of Hamas in any future Palestinian state. Several countries, including France, Britain and Canada, have announced plans to recognize statehood for Palestinians since Israel launched a bombardment of Gaza nearly 2 years ago in response to the Hamas attacks. Albanese said Australia will work with the international community to seize it.
Today I can confirm that at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September, Australia will recognise the state of Palestine. Australia will recognise the right of the Palestinian people to a state of their own, predicated on the commitments Australia has received from the Palestinian Authority. We will work with the international community to make this right a reality.
Now, Israel's military has issued a statement saying that it targeted and killed Hamas terrorist Anas al-Sharif, who posed as an Al Jazeera journalist in a strike on Sunday. Israel claimed that al-Sharif headed a Hamas cell and was involved in rocket attacks on Israeli civilians and IDF troops. The IDF added that intelligence and documents from Gaza, including rosters, terrorist training lists and salary records, proved that he was a Hamas operative integrated into Al Jazeera. The Qatari broadcaster said that 3 other of its staff were also killed. And we are now joined by Dr. Kinraj Jangid, a West Asia expert from O.P. Jindal Global University. Welcome, Dr. Jangid, to DD India. The Israeli Security Cabinet has adopted 5 principles for concluding the war in Gaza. Theoretically, do you see these principles, if they are followed, bringing about durable peace in the region?
Thank you. Well, there is nothing new to these five principles. After October 7, 2023, these were precisely the principles that were, Israel's military objectives in Gaza. Sadly, Israel has failed in achieving all of them. There's only one English language correction, which is very interesting to notice, that Netanyahu calls it Hamas disarmed. Remember, for a very long time, most of the Israeli leaders, everybody who spoke about Hamas said we would eliminate Hamas. I think there is a greater realization among the Israeli hawkish as well as the centrist leaders that Hamas cannot be eliminated. So I think there's a bit of a self-realization, which I find it worthy of some kind of a course correction. But when it comes to really the failure and the military failures of the Israeli army in Gaza, none of these principles will really turn the fortunes for the Israeli army now.
Okay, that's interesting what you've noticed here. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel has no choice but to complete the job and defeat Hamas, given its refusal to lay down arms. Why is Hamas refusing to lay down arms, and how tough a job will it be for Israel to complete the job and defeat Hamas?
I'm coming to Hamas's strategy here, but Israel not having a choice is a very precarious sentence. A country always has a choice. In international relations, yes, there are situations when a war can be called a war of no choice. What Israel did on 8th of October 2023 could be a war of no choice, but what Israel does now in Gaza is certainly a war of choice. Coming to Hamas, Hamas is really holding, it really surprises me the amount of resilience and the amount of stamina and the strength Hamas could retain in almost 2 years of massive war in Gaza. People don't have enough to eat, and yet Hamas really runs a full scale hostage situation under the tunnels. So Hamas really got something very, strategically going well for itself. When it comes to the political shrewdness, Hamas plays it very well. So the fact that Israel has lost much of international legitimacy among the people, even if the governments are in favor of the Israeli state, including the Indian government, the public opinion has really gone against Israel. So Israel has lost a good amount of its image in the world, and that's a good gain for Hamas. Second, whatever is happening inside the line, Gaza, the Palestinian issue is really getting a refreshing political attention and support. So yes, upcoming conference in September, which is certainly driven by moderate Saudi leadership and the other European leaders who are very critical of Israel, and they wish no benefit to Hamas, but their decision to really recognize Palestine, which I do think is important for them to do. But the unfortunate consequence, one of them would be that this recognition is going to really reboost Hamas's claim that we put the Palestinian issue back on 7th of October, and that's a great victory for what we did.
Okay, so if, the statehood recognition for Palestine does happen in September, will it change the situation in Gaza and West Asia? What is your view?
Well, that's the funniest thing about the world. It wouldn't. It wouldn't change the situation and the fortunes of the Palestinian people in Gaza or in the West Bank. However, it would mean a great amount of political and a moral victory for the Palestinian issue. So yes, it would be, as we say in Hindi, kagazi, just on paper, but that symbolism will really give hope to the Palestinian national movement, which has really been sadly thrown into the hands of extremists and jihadists and Islamists of Hamas, and very incompetent and corrupt leadership of Mahmoud Abbas. So maybe an international recognition will really salvage Palestinian issue. Otherwise, it is going nowhere.
Okay. Australia says that it has received assurances from the Palestinian Authority that there will be no role for the terrorists of Hamas in any future Palestinian state. How credible is this assurance?
Palestinian Authority has no credibility. Mahmoud Abbas is ruling Palestinian people by decree for more than a decade and a half. The whole Palestinian issue has become extremely, in a way, complicated from within, meaning authority doesn't have a control and credibility. There are all kind of small armed groups that are working from different pockets in West Bank under the influence of Hamas. And in Gaza, Hamas seems to have, let's say, single-handed control. So I don't think anybody on behalf of the Palestinian people can claim to guarantee anything. However, the only possible credibility that can come in is a regional alliance led by the Arab leaders on behalf of the Palestinian people and involving completely new set of Palestinian people from the different layers of the society than the existing PA. Because the PA system is extremely discredited and not reliable system even for the Palestinians.
In the days ahead, Dr. Jangid, do you see the humanitarian crisis in Gaza abating or increasing greatly in severity?
It will increase. To our misfortune, this will be the sad reality. Winters are coming, and Mediterranean winters are very rainy and extremely cold. So that will worsen the situation for the people in Gaza. Israel will not be able to act responsibly because the extremist element in the Israeli government have monopolized the aid as a tactic to show to the people in their constituencies that, look, we are not leaving anybody unpunished in Gaza. So it's a very sad situation. And to make matters worse, the only country that can really bring any change is the United States. But Donald Trump and his personal interest do not align with the interest of the people in Gaza and West Bank. So if the world will really be united and act for the people of Gaza, then we might not be watching some of the worst human tragedies. But to me, it seems like the fate of our times.
Sad indeed. Thank you very much, Dr. Jangid, for explaining to us where the Israel-Hamas conflict is headed. One hopes for peace, but peace seems elusive for now. Thank you very much for being with us on DD India News Hour. The head of the EU diplomatic service, Kaja Kallas, has called a meeting of EU foreign ministers to discuss the upcoming Russia-US summit on Ukraine. Kaja Kallas said on Sunday that any deal between Washington and Moscow to end the conflict in Ukraine must include Ukraine and the EU, adding that she will convene a meeting of European foreign ministers to discuss the next steps. The meeting will be held virtually on Monday afternoon, and Kallas said that the ministers will also review developments in the Middle East and Gaza. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky won diplomatic backing from Europe and the NATO alliance ahead of the Russia-US summit this week. Zelensky said that any decisions taken without Ukraine will be still born and unworkable. On Saturday, the leaders of Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Finland and the European Commission said that any diplomatic solution must protect the security interests of Ukraine and Europe. Meanwhile, US Vice President J.D. Vance said that the United States was working to schedule talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In an interview on Sunday, Vance said that he did not think it would be productive for Putin to sit down with Zelensky before meeting with US President Donald Trump. Vance also added that his administration was hoping to reach a negotiated settlement between Russia and Ukraine, but warned that both sides would probably be unhappy with the outcome.
One of the most important logjams is that Vladimir Putin said that he would never sit down with Zelensky, the head of Ukraine, and the president has now got that to change. We're at a point now where we're now trying to figure out, frankly, scheduling and things like that around when these three leaders could sit down and discuss an end to this conflict. We're going to try to find some negotiated settlement that the Ukrainians and the Russians can live with, where they can live in relative peace, where the killing stops.
The UK government announced on Sunday that it will expand a scheme forcing some foreign nationals to have appeals against convictions heard from abroad to prevent them from delaying deportations. The number of countries enrolled in the initiative will nearly treble to 23, with people from those nations now to be deported before they can appeal their convictions. In a separate announcement, Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood said she intends to change the law so most foreign criminals will be deported immediately when they receive a prison sentence. Foreign national offenders make up around 12% of the prison population, and the move could save money. The steps come as Prime Minister Keir Starmer's centre-left Labour government faces intense domestic pressure over immigration as Nigel Farage's right-wing Reform UK party surges in polls. The Interior Ministry said the expansion of the pre-appeal deportation scheme will increase the UK's ability to remove foreign criminals at the earliest opportunity. US President Donald Trump pledged to evict homeless people from the nation's capital and jail criminals despite Washington's mayor arguing that there is no current spike in crime. While details of the plan were unclear, the administration is preparing to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, a US official told a controversial tactic Trump used recently in Los Angeles to tackle immigration protests over the objections of local officials. Trump has not made a final decision, the official said, adding that the number of troops and their role are still being determined. Unlike in California and every other state where the governor typically decides when to activate Guard troops, the president directly controls the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Back to Asia. Amid signs of easing tensions across the border under a new leader in Seoul, North Korea denounced a major joint exercise planned by South Korean and the US militaries and as a direct military provocation and warned of counteraction. North Korea's Defense Minister No Kwang-chol said its military has an absolute mission to defend national security against the large-scale 11-day drills by South Korea and the United States, which he said posed a real and dangerous threat. South Korea and the United States said last week that the annual exercise would begin on August 18th to test command control and troop mobilization under an upgraded security strategy against heightened threat of nuclear warfare by North Korea. South Korea and Vietnam will pledge deeper economic and strategic cooperation when their leaders hold a summit on Monday as the former Cold War-era foes seek to leverage their business ties to navigate a challenging global environment. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung hosts Vietnamese leader Lam as his first state guest since taking office on June 4th and will discuss promoting trade and investment ties in the Southeast Asian country. The countries plan to sign at least 10 memoranda of understanding at the summit meeting, pledging cooperation in nuclear and renewable energy, monetary and financial policies, and science and technology. South Korean companies have been cited as potential investors in Vietnam's planned nuclear energy, LNG power plants and high-speed rail projects. Trump has imposed a tariff rate of 15% for South Korean goods and 20% for imports from Vietnam. Indonesia and Peru signed a free trade agreement on Monday to strengthen bilateral trade and investment ties, the leaders of both countries said at a signing ceremony in Jakarta. Indonesian exports to Peru totaled $331.2 million worth of goods in 2024, while imports from Peru stood at $149.6 million. Indonesia's top export products were cars and car parts, biodiesel and footwear, while it mainly imported cocoa beans and grapes. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto said that the two countries would also increase cooperation in sectors like food, fishery, mining, energy transition and defense. China has long been dominating the global market for batteries for electric vehicles. But Europe has been trying to catch up, specifically Sweden's Northvolt, who was even planning an expansion to Germany. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin on the story now. Lars, things didn't work out as planned, so what happened there?
Thanks for having me. Well, what happened is that Northvolt went bankrupt, dealing a huge blow to Europe's ambitious goals on the global battery market. Let me give you some numbers on how important the company and its plans were for Europe. Governments lined up tons of money to support Northvolt. The German government in Berlin gave 600 million euros, plus another 20 million then for adjustments. And the EU government in Brussels gave 700 million, although that money hadn't been paid out yet. It had just been green-lighted. Anyway, this was big. And then the whole project failed due to a capital-intense environment, of course. Maybe the company also tried to grow too big, too fast. But some good news came over the weekend now. US battery maker Lyten will take over Northvolt, including all its assets, and that is a plant in California, a plant in the Polish city of Danzig. So obviously the assets in the company's homeland of Sweden, and most importantly from our perspective here, it includes the plant in northern Germany, which is already under construction and is set to turn out 15 gigawatt hours in batteries every year.
Okay, big plans for US battery startup Lyten as it takes over Northvolt of Sweden. Thank you very much, our correspondent from Deutsche Welle reporting from Berlin. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Thousands of Indonesians gathered and attended a parade of giant flags to commemorate Indonesia's upcoming 80th Independence Day. On 17th of August 1945, Indonesia had declared independence from the Dutch colonial rule and subsequent Japanese occupation. Two boats, Team Holcim and Team Alagrande Mape Racing, were forced to retire from the first leg of the Ocean Race Europe after colliding shortly. Both teams returned to harbour to assess the damage. The race features 7 teams racing 4,500 nautical miles, with the finish in Montenegro scheduled for September 21st. The 10th International Waterfall Jumps in Jas, Bosnia and Herzegovina featured 16 divers performing daring jumps from the city's iconic 20-meter Pliva waterfall. The competition showcased traditional Nasta-style jumps, emphasizing form and posture. The event has become a major cultural and sporting attraction. Hue City in Vietnam has created the Phong Dien Nature Reserve, covering over 40,700 hectares of forest and land. The reserve is split into protected, restoration and administrative zones. Its core aim is to safeguard rare animals, plants and forest ecosystems. This move helps preserve endangered species and Vietnam's unique natural heritage for future generations. You're watching DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates 184 new flats for MPs in New Delhi, says it reflects the spirit of unity. Chief of Australian Army Lieutenant General Simon Stewart is on a 5-day visit to India to strengthen India-Australia defence ties. Dengue outbreak in Bangladesh. Health experts warn that the month of August could be even more deadly if urgent action is not taken.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Here's a quick reminder of the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel not looking to occupy Gaza but to free it from Hamas, calls his Gaza City plan the best way to end the war. European leaders rally in support of Kiev's inclusion ahead of the August 15th talks between Trump and Putin in Alaska. White House says Trump is open to Zelensky attending, but preparations underway only for a bilateral meeting. Nearly 10,000 residents relocated after deadly flood scale 13 in China's Gansu province. Mexico, Japan and Wisconsin also affected by floods. Huge fire sweeps across landmark Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, Scotland. Crews battle wildfires in Spain's Navarra and Italy's Vesuvius National Park. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated 184 newly constructed Type 7 multi-storey flats for members of Parliament at Baba Kadak Singh Marg in New Delhi on Monday. Prime Minister Modi planted a sindoor sapling at the residential premises and interacted with the Shramjeevis or labourers on the occasion. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Modi stated that naming the towers after India's major rivers reflects their life-giving and unifying significance, promoting national unity despite potential political misinterpretations.
ये जो 4 टावर्स हैं, उनके नाम भी बहुत सुंदर है। कृष्णा, गोदावरी, कोसी, हुगली। भारत की 4 महान नदियां जो करोड़ों जनों को जीवन देती हैं, अब उनकी प्रेरणा से हमारे जनप्रतिनिधियों के जीवन में भी आनंद की नई धारा बहेगी। कुछ लोगों को परेशानी भी होगी। कोसी नदी देख रखा है नाम, तो उनको कोसी नदी नहीं दिखेगी, उनको बिहार का चुनाव नजर आएगा। तो ऐसे छोटे मन के लोग जो होते हैं, उनकी परेशानियों के बीच भी मैं जरूर कहूंगा कि नदियों के नामों की परंपरा देश की एकता के सूत्र में हमें बांधती है।
Further, Prime Minister Modi said that gathering of their MPs from across the country here will reflect the spirit of unity and Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat.
यहां देश के अलग-अलग राज्यों और क्षेत्रों के सांसद एक साथ रहेंगे। आपकी उपस्थिति यहां एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का प्रतीक बनेगी। इसलिए अगर इस परिसर में हर प्रांत के पर्व त्योहारों का समय समय पर सामूहिक आयोजन होगा, तो इस परिसर को 4 चांद लग जाएंगे। आप अपने क्षेत्र की जनता को भी बुलाकर इन कार्यक्रमों में उनकी भागीदारी करवा सकते हैं। आप अपने अपने प्रांतों की भाषा के कुछ शब्द भी एक दूसरे को सिखाने का प्रयास कर सकते हैं। सस्टेनेबिलिटी और स्वच्छता, ये भी इस बिल्डिंग की पहचान बने, ये हम सबका कमिटमेंट होना चाहिए।
The complex is designed to be self-sufficient and is equipped with a full range of modern amenities to address the functional needs of the members of Parliament. Incorporating green technology, all buildings within the complex are constructed to be earthquake resistant in accordance with the modern structural design norms. A comprehensive, robust security system has been implemented to ensure the safety of all residents. Moving on now, the monsoon session of Indian Parliament is underway. In the Lok Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman introduced the new income tax bill. Further, the lower house has taken up the National Sport Governance Bill 2025 and the National Anti-Doping Amendment Bill 2025 for further consideration and passage. In the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, Minister of State for Finance Pankaj Chaudhary moved the bills together. The Manipur Goods and Services Tax Amendment Bill 2025 and the Manipur Appropriation No. 2 Bill 2025 for consideration. Also, the upper house has taken up the Budget Manipur 2025-26 for discussion. DD India's Dibyendu Mondal joins us from the Parliament House in New Delhi. Dibyendu, some business finally being transacted on Monday?
Well, Tanvi, absolutely. You know, after a complete washout last week with little business in both the Houses of Parliament, we are finally seeing after the first adjournment in the morning when the Parliament, in fact, both the Houses of Parliament convened at 11 a.m. and soon after it had to be adjourned till 2 p.m. because of the opposition's ruckus in both the Houses of Parliament. And now we see that both the Houses of Parliament are functioning. But having said this, Tanvi, the protests are currently still underway in the lower house at the moment as we speak because, the opposition is firm on their demand of debate on the SIR. But the government is, on the other hand, absolutely clear. And we also heard from the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju saying that a lot of time and lot of resources of the people of India have been lost because of the unnecessary sloganeering and protest within the floor of both the Houses of Parliament. And therefore, the government will not tolerate any such or any more sloganeering in both the Houses of Parliament, and it will move with its legislative businesses. And also, soon after that, when the Parliament reconvened at 2 p.m., we saw that, the finance bill being introduced. This is a new form of bill, which on Friday we saw the Finance Minister withdrawing the earlier bill. This bill was sent to the JPC, which is the Joint Parliamentary Committee, with about 232 new changes being introduced in this particular finance bill, with 32 major and the rest of minor changes within in this particular new finance bill. That is a new income tax bill, which is being introduced by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And also, currently as we also speak, Tanvi, the sports governance bill and the anti-doping bill together has been taken up for discussion in the Lok Sabha at the moment. And it is expected that after a thorough discussion on this bill, the bill is likely to see the light of the day by the end of today. Tanvi.
Okay, thank you very much. Dibyendu Mondal reporting there from Parliament House in New Delhi. India, I beg your pardon, Irish Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs Simone Harris will meet representatives of the Indian community in Ireland on Monday to assure them of safety and security. The meeting comes as attacks against Indian community members soared in recent weeks. Earlier on Friday, in a social media post, Harris had expressed shock and appreciating Indian community's excellent contribution to Irish society. He asserted that Ireland will never, ever tolerate racism.
I'm deeply concerned by what we've seen happen in the last number of weeks. The Indian community in Ireland have made and continue to make an incredible contribution to our economy, to our society, to life in this country. There's at least 80,000 people of Indian descent living here in Ireland. And I tell you, our health service would fall over if it wasn't for them. So many parts of our economy would. And we have seen a spate of brutal, horrific attacks. And one in particular sticks in my mind of that poor 6-year-old girl. And what she experienced in Waterford, I think, is something that would sicken all of us. This is a good country. This is a country of Céad Míle Fáilte. This is a country that recognises the incredible value that the Indian community have made. It's a country that abhors racism, and we must continue to call it out.
The Chief of Australian Army, Lieutenant General Simon Stewart, who is on a 5-day India visit, received a ceremonial guard of honour at the South Block lawns in New Delhi on Monday. The dignitary's visit is scheduled from August 11th to 14th. The visit marks a significant reunion of two military professionals whose shared past strengthens the foundation of India-Australia defence ties. Elaborating on defence diplomacy, the statement highlighted that shared training experiences between military leaders often sow the seeds for enduring partnerships that outlast political cycles and strategic shifts. Earlier, Lieutenant General Stewart laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in New Delhi, honouring fallen soldiers of India. Lieutenant General Stewart has a shared history with Indian Army Chief of Staff General Upendra Dwivedi, having trained together at the United States Army War College in 2015. According to an official statement from the Indian Army, this experience forged a professional bond that has matured alongside their respective careers. When military commanders train together in their formative or mid-career stages, they develop not only professional competence but also a deep personal understanding of each other's countries, cultures and armed forces. On to India's north now. The anti-terrorist operation in Akhal forests of Kulgam district in Jammu and Kashmir entered the 11th day today. The forces are adopting a calibrated approach here, given the fact that the terrorists seem to be well trained and heavily equipped to carry on with the jungle warfare. Meanwhile, the search and combing operation in Dool forest area of Kishtwar is going on, with security forces using modern tech surveillance equipment in the operation. The encounter started after forces laid a cordon of the Dool forest following specific intel input about presence of terrorists. There was an initial exchange of fire in the operation, followed by intermittent firing since then. The operation is going on as per latest reports. Union Minister of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Shivraj Singh Chauhan graced an event in the western Indian state of Rajasthan's Jhunjhunu district. This was for direct benefit transfer to farmers under the Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojana on Monday. The event was also attended by Chief Minister Bhajan Lal Sharma and the Agriculture Minister of the state, Kirodimal Meena. The first installment of claims amount to 3,200 crore rupees for the Rabi season 2024-25 and Kharif season 2024 is also being distributed on a large scale to over 30 lakh farmers nationwide. India has responded to remarks made by Pakistan's army chief during a visit to the United States. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said that our attention has been drawn to remarks reportedly made by the Pakistani Chief of Army Staff while on a visit to the United States. Nuclear saber rattling is Pakistan's talk in trade. The international community can draw its own conclusions on the irresponsibility inherent in such remarks, which also reinforce the well-held doubts about the integrity of nuclear command and control in a state where the military is hand in glove with terrorist groups. It is also regrettable that these remarks should have been made from the soil of a friendly third country. India has already made it clear that it will not give in to nuclear blackmail. It was said that India will continue to take all necessary steps to safeguard their national security. Lead India's Jessica Taneja joins us from the newsroom now. Jessica, the fact that it was Pakistan Army Chief's remarks were made from the US and India commenting on it, that it is regrettable that these comments were made from the soil of a friendly country. We'll come to Pakistan in a bit, but again, this is a low for the ties between India and the United States.
Well, I would put it rather in a very different context, Tanvi. At this point, there are very different geopolitical complexities at play, so it would be too early to say whether ties have deteriorated or whether ties are being strengthened elsewhere. What is important to keep in mind at this point is this is the Pakistani now Field Marshal Asim Munir's second visit to the United States after the first one in June, where he had a lunch, a 2-hour lunch with President of the United States, Donald Trump. And now he was there, of course, for the farewell party of the CENTCOM chief, and as well as meeting other officials. Now, all of these meetings, of course, have a context to it and how Pakistan is advancing its relations with the United States. And of course, for the Indian side to be able to call out this bluff time and time again, exposing Pakistan as the unconventional sort of relationship that it has been able to form not just now but in the last few years. It has only prevented its own economic growth, and certainly the future will have more answers than what we know so far. But all of these diplomatic engagements and all these tirades as well as these taunts directed at India certainly don't seem to make much of a difference in that sense. And as you read out from the press statement issued by the Ministry of External Affairs, categorically stating that this is Pakistan's strategy, not now but from the 1970s. It thinks that it has that diplomatic back-channel corridor like it did in the past, but certainly it will be hit on the head soon when the geopolitical realities and the complexities play out very different from what it understands right now.
Okay, Jessica, a word also on the semantics used by Pakistan military chief as an inadvertent admission of India being better than Pakistan?
Well, certainly think so. That's one way of reading it. And also perhaps that with India, it's certainly a very different battle to fight, because for India itself knows that Pakistan deals with terrorism not just along its borders but also inside there. You see the last meeting that the Field Marshal Asim Munir had in China was to assure the Chinese side that the workers of China will not be targeted by insurgents. Will the projects on China-Pakistan economic corridor continue? And that has also been hampered for many times. So that development initiative has not picked up the way it would. And all of us know from basic economics that it is the development of a country through such means that it would sort of go forward. But if you can't control insurgents at home, what can be expected from their activities at the border? And at the same time, a country that seeks a $7 billion bailout from IMF and China, along with its Gulf allies, it's certainly going to be difficult for it to play this game longer.
Okay. For those of our viewers who don't know, Pakistan Field Marshal Asim Munir made a strange analogy by comparing India to a shining Mercedes and Pakistan to a dump truck. We leave it here. Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for dissecting this story for us. All right. As India gears up for celebrating Independence Day on 15th August, Tiranga Yatras are being held throughout the nation from 9th to 15th of August in the district headquarters of Rajpipla in Narmada of the western state of Gujarat. The Tiranga Yatra was being held. People were seen carrying the tricolors and chanting Bharat Mata Ki Jai. The procession witnessed participation from locals and people from all walks of life. Another yatra of this sort was held under the leadership of Minister Dharampal Singh of the Uttar Pradesh government in Avala Nagar. The procession witnessed huge participation of people from all walks of life, including politicians, teachers, householders, and so on. A patriotic film a patriotic film festival in a 3D format is being organized to give a cinematic tribute to the nation at the Shri Fort Auditorium in New Delhi. The ceremony themed Har Ghar Tiranga, the Patriotic Film Festival, was opened on Monday. The film festival has been organized by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and the National Film Development Corporation. And on to some weather-related updates. First from India, the Regional Weather Department has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh for the current week. The IMD has issued an orange and yellow alert for 9 districts in Uttarakhand. It also warned of extremely bad weather with the potential of disruption in the commute with road and rail closures and interruption of power supply. While in Himachal Pradesh, the Weather Department has issued an orange alert with the forecast of heavy to very heavy rains from August 11th to 14th. Due to the heavy rain and thunderstorms, authorities have closed a total of 360 roads. This includes the Auntsenge Road, part of National Highway 305. Mandi and Kullu districts are among the worst hit districts with severe infrastructure damage and road closures. So far, 224 casualties have been reported in the state since the onset of monsoon season this year. Meanwhile, in Uttarkashi, the administration is working continuously to help people affected by the recent disaster in Dharale and Harshil in the hilly state of Uttarakhand. Though the unfavorable weather has impacted air services, the rescue operations are still ongoing for the 7th day since the disaster hit the region. Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami continues to monitor the overall situation with instructions to assess the extent of damage to private and public properties within a 7-day timeline. Teams of the NDRF, the SDRF are still searching for the missing with the help of sniffer dogs, thermal imaging cameras and other technologies. So far, 1,311 people have been rescued. The exact number of people affected by the deadly floods is still unclear. Officials are working to expedite the reopening of roads in the disaster-affected areas of Uttarkashi. The Bailey Bridge in Limchigad has been restored for public use. Thirteen people have died and over 30 have gone missing as flash floods trigger torrential rain in northwestern China's Ganzhou province. Nearly 10,000 residents have been relocated due to the floods. Chinese President Xi Jinping ordered all-out rescue operations with utmost effort to save the missing people. Record rainfall has lashed China's north and south in recent weeks. Meteorological department calls such extreme weather events linked to climate change. Heavy rains and flooding have killed more than 40 people across northern China, including in Beijing, since late July. Japanese authorities urged over 3 million residents to evacuate after torrential rains triggered floods and landslides across the country's southwest. Several residents remain missing while surging rivers swept away vehicles and tore through roads. Japan's meteorological agency reported that Tamana city in Kumamoto prefecture received over 37 centimeters of rainfall on Monday, setting a new record for the area. Intense rainstorm, flooding and lightning strikes impacted Mexico City. The heavy rains led to lightning strikes and flooding across several boroughs. Mexico City's Benito Juarez International Airport suspended operations for several hours on Sunday after heavy rains flooded the capital and caused poor visibility. Mexico City has activated a top-level purple alert for the central area of the metropolis of more than 9 million inhabitants. Wildfires swept across northern part of the country, forcing the emergency evacuation of around 1,400 people as fast-moving flames reached towns, heritage sites and major roads in the region of Castile and Leon. A wildfire broke out on Scotland's capital Edinburgh on Sunday, sending plumes of smoke high into the sky and prompting emergency warnings for residents and tourists. The fire spread rapidly across dry grasslands of the landmark, which sits in Holyrood Park, just a short distance from the Scottish Parliament and the Royal Mile. Firefighting crews and volunteers battled for a third day to contain a large wildfire sweeping through southern Italy's pine forest at the Vesuvius National Park. The fire broke out on Friday in the forested area. The blaze, about 3 kilometers wide, has destroyed hundreds of hectares of woodland. Back to Asia. Bangladesh is experiencing a surge in dengue cases and deaths, with health experts warning that August could bring an even more severe outbreak of the mosquito-borne disease if urgent action is not taken. Dengue has killed 101 people and infected over 24,000 so far this year. Official data showed this places a severe strain on the country's already overstretched healthcare system. A sharp rise in fatalities has accompanied the spike in cases. 19 people have already died in dengue so far in August, following 41 deaths in July, more than double of June's 19 fatalities. Dhaka remains a major hotspot. Dengue is, although peaking elsewhere in Bangladesh, large numbers of infections are being reported from outside the capital, adding pressure to rural healthcare facilities with limited capacity to treat severe cases. The deadliest year on record for dengue in the country was 2023, with 1,705 deaths and more than 321,000 infections reported. And now let's bring you some business news. As part of digital skilling initiatives, with an aim to boost country's digital skilling, especially in the Northeast region, MOUs were signed between India's BSNL and 4 major technology companies in the presence of Union Minister of Communications and Development of Northeastern Region, Jyotiraditya Scindia. The memoranda were signed between BSNL and Ericsson, Qualcomm, Cisco and Nokia. The agreements will be formalized at the Bharat Ratna Bhimrao Ambedkar Institute of Telecom Training in Jabalpur. This is a part of a larger initiative to establish a telecom innovation, research and training center at the institute. These MOUs will kick off with inaugural batches of courses on topics like 5G technology and cybersecurity, with the industry partners providing training in these advanced domains. In a crucial move to ease banking operations and boost international trade, India's central bank has announced that authorized dealer category 1 banks can now open special rupee Vostro accounts for overseas correspondent banks without prior approval from the Reserve Bank of India. The move is aimed to enhance efficiency in the country, to promote the use of Indian currency in global trade and to ease country-to-country transactions. Special rupee Vostro accounts is a type of bank account maintained by an AD bank in India on behalf of a foreign bank or financial institution denominated in Indian rupee. An Indian benchmark equity indices, the Sensex and the Nifty, traded higher on Monday after 6 straight weeks of declines. The gains were supported by banking, auto and realty stocks. Broader markets also supported the enthusiasm as they gained in tandem amid supportive global cues. Around noon, the BSE Sensex was trading 398 points up at 80,267. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange was hovering around 24,492. And oil prices fell in Asian trade on Monday, extending declines of more than 4% last week. Investors awaited the outcome of talks between US and Russia later this week on the crisis in Ukraine. So Brent crude fell 62 cents to $65.97 a barrel, while US crude was down 69 cents to $63.19. Expectations have risen for a potential end to sanctions that have limited the supply of Russian oil to international markets. And in sports, FA Cup winners Crystal Palace beat Premier League champions Liverpool 3-2 on penalties to win the Community Shield after an entertaining 2-2 draw at Wembley on Sunday. The match showcased debutants' dramatic moments and a standout performance from goalkeeper Dion Henderson, who proved to be the hero in the shootout. This win marks Palace's second major trophy in recent months, following their FA Cup success in May, and signals their ambition for the new season. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.